So this next calculator feature here isn't a test. In fact, it handles a case where our test features fall short. Okay. The problem I'm looking at from your notes just states that you did a 2-sample t-test from a sample of 45 and a sample of 56, and you had a t-score of 1.2, but that's all it says. Okay. So now I'm not actually going to go, but if you were to go to the test feature and look at a 2-sample t-test, you'd see that we don't have the data and that we don't have the stats. You know, the 2-sample means and the 2-sample standard deviations aren't there. You couldn't run the test to get your p-value. Okay. This can still be done though. It actually will feel maybe somewhat familiar. If it were a z-score, we'd say no problem, right? You could use the normal CDF and you could go lower bound, upper bound, and then set your mean and standard deviation at 0 and 1, and away you go. You'll get your p-value. But this is a t-score. But if you just keep going down, under option number 6, you'll find tcdf, which does the exact same thing, right? It gets you to a p-value if all you really have is just the t-score and you don't have any of the other information. Okay. The stuff we have to enter is similar. Your calculator probably prompts you to put it in. It's still lower bound, upper bound. And again, the t-score we were given was 1.2. Then we put in something crazy big to kind of represent our upper bound. In the normal CDF, we would need mean and standard deviation. Not the case here, right? The tcdf is going to make you use 0 and 1 because it requires that you put in a t-score. But the last thing it needs is our degrees of freedom, right? It's a t distribution, and we always have to say, here's the specific one that we're using. The easiest thing to do here is to just go off of the smaller sample size. Okay, the one in the note says you had a sample of 45 and then a sample of 56. For degrees of freedom, I would just say 44, right? There is a way to combine those. And when we use the test feature on the calculator, it uses the fancy way to combine them. We're not going to, nor do we need to. Okay, if you were to go use the tcdf, you should just take the smaller sample size -1, and there you go. About 0.12. We'll say 0.118 for our p-value. So again, to summarize here, this feature does something relatively simple, but we technically weren't able to do it up until this point. If you just have your t-score and really nothing else, t-score and sample sizes, that's it. This can still take you from t-score to p-value.